Iran nuclear threat. Iran is beginning to enrich uranium to 4.5%. That breaks the limit set by the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo weighed in yesterday, threatening more sanctions on Iran if it continues to expand the nuclear program. Joining me right now is former Connecticut Senator, former Democratic vice presidential candidate, and the chairman of United Against Nuclear Iran, Joe Lieberman. Good to see you, sir.
You too, Maria. Good to be back.
So your reaction to what Iran is doing right now?
Predictable. Let me just go back and say that President Trump's decision to pull the U.S. out of the Iran nuclear agreement, to me, was one of the most important national security decisions and best decisions that a president has made in recent memory. It was a terrible deal. It was bad for the United States, bad for the world. And then to impose sanctions on Iran, it's hurting Iran. So what have they got to do to respond? They're systematically breaking out of the agreement themselves. To me, Maria, this is all about the Iranians trying to put pressure on the Europeans to break away from the United States. Well, I don't think it'll work.
This is the point. Why isn't Europe following the U.S.'s lead here and saying to Iran, no, stop, otherwise we will also pull out of this deal?
Well, up until now, you're right.
Shouldn't we be getting more support from Europe?
We should be getting more support from Europe, because the truth is that Europe is threatened at least as much, probably more than we are, by the radical Islamist regime, a terrorist group that took over a great country, Iran. And they've missed that. They've actually been working with Iran to try to circumvent American sanctions. But in my opinion, the European businesses will not go along with that, because they don't want to be pushed out of the United States financial system and markets. So that's what this is all about. The first reaction from the Europeans to the latest Iranian break out of the nuclear agreement has been not encouraging to the Iranians, and I hope it continues. And frankly, I hope that the Trump administration not only threatens more sanctions on Iran, but makes very clear to our European allies that this is important to us, and if they continue to try to work with Iran to get around our sanctions, we will sanction them. Yeah. I mean, we will sanction this entity that the Europeans and the Iranians were talking about creating to get around our sanctions.
The president told me in an interview a couple of months ago he has no problem putting new sanctions on any European country or company that goes around these sanctions. What's your reaction then today, and what do you want to hear the president say to the emir of Qatar? So here you have the emir of Qatar in Washington meeting with the president. What's this all about? Hasn't Qatar supported Iran?
Yeah, among the Sunni Arab countries in the Middle East and in the Persian Gulf particularly, Qatar has been closer to Iran than any of the others. The others feel threatened by Iran.
And the Muslim Brotherhood?
Yeah, and they've supported the Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, et cetera, et cetera. I think the president really is in a moment of strength, particularly because of the strength of the American economy, to say to the emir of Qatar, it's time for you and your country to make a choice. You can't walk on both sides of the street at the same time. And
you think that's what this is about?
I hope so. And it's time for you, Qatar, Emir, to get with us and your Arab neighbors against Iran, which you're playing with now, but really in the long run is going to be a threat to your security. That would be a big development.
I think the Qataris want to invest in the U.S. in one way or another.
Yeah.
And that's part of the conversation when the president meets with the emir. But you got to believe this comes up, given Qatar's support for the Muslim Brotherhood and for the Iranians.
Correct. And President Trump cannot allow Qatar to think that they can buy us, essentially, by saying that they will invest money in the United States, that will close our eyes to their quiet alliance with the Iranians. They ought to be on our side. They ought to be on the side of the other Arab nations against the threat that Iran represents, mostly to them.
And then, Senator, there's China. Joe Biden is apologizing. He did so over the weekend. The former vice president expressed regret over the weekend for supporting segregationist senators during the 1970s. Biden made the comments in South Carolina in front of a mostly African-American audience. The 2020 hopeful also spoke out yesterday about why he chose this weekend to apologize. Watch this.
If any comments I made were taken in a way that people took offense from them, then I am truly sorry for that. Have I made mistakes? Yes. Do we grow? Yes. But the fact of the matter is, that's why I chose here in South Carolina and chose an audience that, in fact, would be the most likely to have been offended by anything that was said.
What do you think, Senator?
Well, first off, I don't think Joe Biden had to apologize for those comments because I don't think there was anything wrong with him. He's not a segregationist. Everybody knows that. He's got a great record on civil rights. I think the point he was trying to make is really an important point. When you're a senator, when you're a vice president, when you're president, you got to work with people you don't agree with to get things done for the country, to solve problems. And that's what he did with those senators. So this was not what do I want to say, a strong apology. It was basically saying, if I hurt your feelings because of what I said, you misunderstood, but I apologize.
But you know how to do that. You know how to work with the other side to make concessions, to move the ball forward, to make progress. There's a real battle within the Democratic Party right now. Look at what just happened with Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi criticizing far-left House Democrats like Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Ilhan Omar, and Rashida Tlaib, saying that they voted against the $4.6 billion border deal President Trump signed into law, and yet they complain about the border. The speaker said in an interview with the New York Times this, quote, all these people have their public whatever and their Twitter world, but they didn't have any following. They're 4 people, and that's how many votes they got. Ocasio-Cortez sees this. She fires back on Twitter. She says this to Pelosi. That public whatever is called public sentiment, and wielding the power to shift it is actually how we actually achieve meaningful change in this country. She, of course, has been critical of you. We know that, Senator, for being too moderate. Your reaction to Ocasio-Cortez and Pelosi? Yeah,
this is really an important discussion and dialogue, and it talks about what the future of the Democratic Party is going to be.
Right.
Is the Democratic Party going to be a center-left party, or is it going to be a far-left party? Is it going to be a party that works within the system to solve people's problems, or is it going to be a revolutionary party? And if it's going to be a revolutionary party, a far-left party, as Ocasio-Cortez, et cetera, want it to be, it's not going to win elections in America, because that's not America. So I really appreciate that the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, who's a liberal Democrat, has basically said these 3 or 4 members of the House caucus and others are taking us down a road that's not right. On that bill that they're all complaining about that passed last week, that bill passed the Senate with something like 85 votes. Pat Leahy, Dick Durbin, a lot of liberal Democrats said this is a good bill for border security and for the children of immigrants who need humanitarian assistance. And then in the House, it became controversial.
Do they not realize that most people are hanging out in the middle? They might lean a little to the right, lean a little to the left, but they're hanging out in the middle?
Yeah. I guess they don't realize it. And what they really ought to do is go back to 2016 when they got elected. They weren't the typical Democrat elected. The Democrats who were elected were center-left. That's why Nancy Pelosi is Speaker. If the party goes too far left, she won't be Speaker, and there'll never be a Democratic president.
Senator, it's great to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.